Hey everybody. So here we are for Lightroom Masking with Nicole S. Young and Kristina Sherk. How you doing, Nicole?
Doing great. How about you?
Good, very good. How you
Yeah.
doing, Kristina?
Good. I'm hanging in there.
Great. And Nicole, did you want to let people know what we're going over today?
Sure. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about Lightroom, primarily masking. So I'm doing more of like the nature landscape kind of photos. So you get to see a lot of that. Christina's going to jump into a lot of portrait, how to use the new masking tools with the portraits, and just a bunch of tips to kind of like, squeeze in some tips in there as well. So we're primarily going to be showing in Lightroom Classic. However, if you use Lightroom, primarily the desktop version of Lightroom, just the mobile Lightroom version. If you use that, then you're still going to get a lot out of this because they're practically identical. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Lightroom, using the new tools and just jumping around, and we're open to questions as well too. So
excellent. So let me just
move
this around.
I'm gonna like Nicole said, I'm just gonna really quickly cover some of the new features that are now out in Lightroom Classic, and like we said, Lightroom on portrait retouching, and some of the new selective masks that are literally making me like run in circles and the top of your head blow into a big bomb, right? Blowing off your head because they are so stinking cool and exciting. So so I want to make sure everybody knows about all of those. And I think Nicole and I both have some freebies at the end for people.
mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Sure.
All right, well, lots of people are coming in. So
Cool.
we got Hannah Messer from LA. Good to see her, Hannah.
That's
We
good.
got Kirsty from the UK. RG from Virginia. Jean-Jacques Caprini from Belgium. Soleil from New York. Paul from the UK.
That's pretty cool.
Robert from Connecticut. Jeff from Toronto. Let's see. Tiger from Missouri. Manuel from Illinois. Carol from Tennessee.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, lots
cool.
of people coming in. Tense.
Yeah.
The Jeaner from DC.
Yeah.
Doug from Ohio. Mark from Kansas. Carol from Colorado. Hexam in the UK from John. That's John. My friend John Williams is here from Texas. Greetings, Earthlings. Hello from Vermont. Let's see. Getting a lot of echo. Yeah, I don't hear any echo, so you might want to check your settings. Maybe you have it open in two different places.
I think sometimes closing and reopening, especially like on YouTube, will help that problem. So if anyone's out there is watching on YouTube and you're watching live, then just close the window, reopen it, and it usually goes away.
People from PA. And then wanted to state, let's see, someone from, it says Facebook user. So let me remind you that if you're watching from Facebook, do please give StreamYard permission to show your name and profile pics, so I'll be able to credit you when you comment or ask questions. You may have to scroll down underneath the description under the live to where there's a link that says StreamYard.com/Facebook. Give that a click, give permissions, jump back. Thank you. Let's see. Lots of people coming in. So
yeah, I'm so glad everybody's joining us today.
Nicole from
so a week ago or 2 weeks, it's been a while actually since we were all together at Adobe Max and we talked about doing this. We were all at Adobe Max and kind of freaking out about all of the good new stuff that's being released and rolled out. And then we were saying we got to do something together, all three of us, to just kind of spread the word on all of these new amazing features. So I'm so happy we got this on the books.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we're here.
We have a question already. So we have Cheryl asks, I have Lightroom Classic 10.4. Will I have these assets?
You will not.
Not the newest, I actually can't recall exactly how far back some of the masking stuff goes. I mean, you'll have like brush tools, but I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look at the timeline, but a lot of the things here that you're seeing will not be in that version of Lightroom. We're in, I think, 12 point something right now. So that's the version you'll need to actually get this. So if you have, is 10.4, does that go back to before Creative Cloud? If you have the Creative Cloud plan, then you can update. It's like $10 a month to get the Photoshop pack, so it's not too bad.
Sure.
I think that's probably why the question is, yeah, these are all new features of the AI masking, and I don't think that they were implemented in 10.4.
No, those are probably just the brush tool days when you just brush over things and it was very basic. But I mean, if photography is either a profession or a serious hobby, then in my opinion, this is like one of the biggest updates they've made to Lightroom, and it prevents you from having to really go back and forth to Photoshop for certain edits, or you just make your photos look better in Lightroom. And if you would not have ever gone into Photoshop for your photos, then this is like a huge improvement. And I think you'll see even just with some of the before and afters that we're showing how especially, and I think, Kristy, you're going to be showing how you can just use presets. You can create your own presets or install your own presets or other people's presets, just like with a click, and apply like a bunch of portrait edits just with one click. Of course, everything's editable after that, but you know, this is like, you can just move so fast in Lightroom. That's one of the best things about it.
Well, a lot to go over today. So, Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself and then jump into one of the first features?
Yeah. So, my name's Nicole. I've been a photographer for decades now. It feels like it feels sad to say it like that, but I'm a photographer. So my editing and my teaching, which is what I do now, is primarily just teaching photography and post-processing. It kind of all wraps around doing it from a photographer's perspective. I have a lot of different types of photography I've done over the years. Started out with doing a lot of stock photography. I've done a lot of food photography. Right now, I photograph just basically whatever's in front of me, mostly landscape, nature, travel. I have a big trip coming up, so I'm going to be coming home with a lot of travel photos. But for today, I'm going to be focusing on doing some kind of nature photographs. I have a photo I'm going to start out with here of a little lizard that I have, to show you kind of some things you can do in Lightroom with that. And then as we kind of progress, depending on how much time we have, I have some other images I'll show as well. But yeah, so that's who I am. I like to teach photography. I love to help people learn and grow in their craft. So
great. Shall I share your screen?
Yeah, let's go for it. I'm ready. Okay. So I'm going to start out with this little lizard here, and I've already done some really basic edits to it. I can kind of jump over and show the full before where I imported it. So I just did some really simple basic edits to this to kind of start out. And I'm going to be showing just mostly the masking on this because I really want to focus on masking today. Before to kind of start out, I want to give a really quick primer on how to set up your masking and how to actually access it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're in the develop module. So I'm up here in the develop module. And then up here in the very top right, you may have the histogram expanded there. I'm just going to collapse it for today's presentation, but you want to click this little circle icon here in the top right. That's going to bring up your masking. And as soon as you see that, you have all of these different options to choose from. So to start, you just click on one that you want to work with, and then you'll just kind of see that masking panel pop up. So I'm just going to start out by selecting the subject because my goal here in this image is I really want to make this lizard stand out. I want to give it a little bit more brightness and contrast. So I'm just going to start by clicking subject, and Lightroom is going to kind of go through that process and find what it thinks the subject is. Now, once it did that, let's take a look at this little, this is your little masking little panel here on the top right. It may be collapsed, and there's little arrows there, so you can collapse or expand it. I prefer to see it larger like this, just because you get to see all of those little details. Otherwise, it's just kind of, it's tough to really know what's going on there. And once you start actually making edits, then the masking panel goes away, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want, you can move it away and kind of drag it around. You can even dock it over here on the panel on the right side. I'm not going to do that because sometimes when you do that, you kind of limit the number of masks you can see, but it's a good way if you want it out of the way. And then if you want to put it back to where it was, just kind of find that corner, wait till you see that blue highlight outline, and then just release and it'll snap back. Okay, so I've started out with my subject mask here, but it didn't quite do what I want. Actually, let me switch back to the default, kind of that red default. You know, you can see it really picked up a lot of those leaves, and it didn't get this leg back here, and it missed the tail. So I'm actually going to delete this mask and just start over, because it's just, you know, it's a little bit easier sometimes to start over with some of the new features. So I just click that little three little dots there, and I'm just going to delete this mask by choosing that from that dropdown. So instead of choosing that subject, the AI subject, I'm going to select this objects option. And this is one of the newer features here in the most recent update. So I'm going to click objects, and I still have to do a tiny bit of work to actually make Lightroom actually see what I want to edit here. So once you click the objects, you have a few options here at the top. You get to choose your mode. So to start, you have this little, it's like a paintbrush where you can kind of brush over the area that you want, you know, that you want Lightroom to kind of find that subject, or you can draw a rectangle. And it's kind of up to you which one you want to use. I'm going to use the paintbrush because I have like a kind of a angled subject here, so I feel like it's going to be a little bit easier. And then you can increase or decrease your brush size with those right or left bracket keys. And if you'll notice here on the bottom left, I also have some keyboard shortcuts popping up. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, just peek there in that corner and you'll see them appear. Okay, so now I just need to brush over the lizard. And when you're doing this type of mode, you kind of want to try to get it all in one swoop. But I'm not going to get the tail right away because there's a leaf kind of blocking that view. So I released from that, and you can see at the bottom, it's detecting, oops, it's detecting objects. And depending on your computer, your processing speed, it'll take, you know, more or less time. I'm not on the fastest computer right now. I'm actually on a 10-year-old iMac at the moment. So it surprisingly did a pretty good job pretty quickly. Okay, so I can see that it missed a spot right up here. It missed that leg. And it also has a little spot down here that it didn't get. So let's use some of the tools here to kind of fix that and add and subtract these from the view. So I'm going to start out by clicking add here at the very top. I'll click add, and then you can choose from any of those masks to add to your existing mask. So I'm going to just start out by choosing objects once again, because I want to add a few more things to this mask. So I have that object, that circular brush there. I'm going to reduce my brush size and see if I can get this leg to kind of be included in that mask. And we'll just kind of let Lightroom process that and see if it can find it. And just give it a moment here. And I'm also going to, after that, I'm going to do the same thing with the, oh, that did a pretty good job, actually. Now I'm actually going to change this, though, because the red, you know, I've got a lot of pink back here, and the red stands out here, but it's a little bit harder to see in the background. So another thing you can do here over in your mask panel is there's a little color swatch. So you can choose that color swatch and actually change what color is used as the overlay. So I'll set it there to blue. And you can also play around with your view as well. So if maybe I wanted to see this with a color overlay on a black and white, that gives me a better representation of what it's going to look like. Oftentimes I'll jump to the white on black. That gives me a good idea as well. For now, I'll keep things as color overlay because that I think kind of represents the whole photo really well. Okay, let's do this once again. I'll click add and I'll do objects. And this time I'll use that little square, that rectangle selection tool, and then just drag over the tail and see if it actually can find that tail that I'm trying to get. And it's working, it's working. And come on, you can do it, computer. Okay, so it picked up a little too much there. So I'm just going to undo that. And I will just do that once again, click add. This time I'm just going to brush. So when you're using the brush tool, it's just like a standard brush on almost everything you'd use, but there's this box here for auto masking. And what that does is it allows you to kind of keep your brush stroke or your masking. It basically looks at the color and the contrast, and it tries to keep that masking only to that area. So I'm going to keep that center part of my brush right over the tail and then just brush over that tail. And you can see it's really only picking up the tail, but it didn't get anything around it for the most part. If I had, let me jump over.
And that's because you hover the plus sign over all the information that wants to be included, and anything that the plus sign isn't over, it's going to like look for an edge. Yeah,
Yep,
that's so
that's exactly it. It's really handy. It's sometimes you'll find it useful, sometimes you'll want to turn it off, and it just kind of depends on the situation. Okay, so just real quickly, I want to get rid of this little, there's like a little leaf there or a little bud that I want to remove. So I'm going to subtract that, and I'll use the brush, but this time I'm going to uncheck auto mask because I'm not really worried about the brush stroke kind of going over areas I don't want it to. Okay, so I did this, and of course it took me longer to do this because I'm talking through it and I'm working through it, but this would have taken me probably 30 seconds, just to do on my own, and just boop, 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 and then I have my mask created. All right, so now that I have my mask created, now I can actually start making adjustments. So I'm going to, what I want to do, my goal here is to make the lizard a little bit brighter and a little bit more contrasty, because that's going to really draw our eyes to that subject. So when you're working on this, your first thought might be, well, let me increase the exposure. So if I were to do that, I don't like that. And I actually kind of avoid using, obviously I wouldn't go that intense, but I really try to avoid using the exposure at any type of intense level other than just like a tiny, tiny bump up on it, because you can really see, it's not that this isn't the best example that shows it poorly, but you will probably see a really harsh line between your masked area and your unmasked area when you use the exposure. So for the most that I would do for exposure is I might click just in this little box on the right and then just press my up arrow. And that will just, maybe do that once or twice just to make sure I just get a really, really subtle adjustment. I'll also go into the shadows, increase the shadows. I'll add a touch of contrast here and maybe increase the whites. And then I'm going to add some texture as well. And that's kind of like sharpening. It's kind of hard. It just really makes the texture in whatever you have pop. So let's see how that looks.
Looks nice.
Yeah, that little thing did a really nice job. Okay, so I have this mask, but one thing I want to show the intersect mask, because I know that it's one of those features in Lightroom that is a little, with masking, it's really complex until you start seeing it and they're like, oh, it makes so much sense like how this works. So intersect mask is when you want to take two masks, and wherever those two masks overlap, that's where your mask is actually going to be created. So let's go ahead and do that here. And it's also one of those tools and those techniques that it's not something that you use all the time, but when you need to use it, it's really, really helpful. So what I want to do here, my goal here is I only want mostly this part, this kind of front part of the lizard to be the area that is actually affected by the mask, because as it kind of tails off, pardon the pun, on the left side there, it kind of brings your attention too much off of the screen, and I really want everything to be in the center here. So I want to just kind of create another mask to overlay on top of this that will kind of fade off and not have a harsh transition. So I'm going to go over to my mask panel here, and you can click these little three dots, and this is one way to access this feature. And you go down to intersect mask, and then you just choose whatever one you want to work with. But a faster way to do this is to press and hold the Option or Alt key, and then you see this little intersect option here. It's usually add and subtract, but if you press the Option or Alt key, then it changes to intersect. And then you click it, and while
Why they hid that, I will never know.
I know, right? It's probably because it's a feature that's just not used all that often. So they're like, well, if people really need it, they'll find it. So I'm going to intersect. I'm still holding my Option or Alt key. Sometimes it just disappears if you let go, so I usually hold on to it. And I'm going to go down to the linear gradient. Okay, I'm also going to show the overlay while I'm doing this, because it's a lot easier to actually understand what's happening. So I have a linear gradient, and then I'm just going to start drawing. And as soon as I do that, the original mask fades away. But as I draw over that original mask, you can see that mask is actually still there, and it's also faded with that linear gradient. So I'll set it to about there. And now let's take a look at the mask with the black and white view, and you can see now what it did. It took that original mask and it just took a linear gradient and just faded it. So now I have a really nice transition. There's not a harsh line right here. It's just really soft. I'll go ahead and hide that overlay once again. And I'm just going to do a quick before and after. And you can see that it just really kind of adds a spotlight to the face then. This isn't, again, it's one of those things where you can find a lot of different ways to make these masks. And this is just one method. Real quickly, though, before I finish and hand this off to Christy, I'm going to create another mask because I want to create like a custom vignette. You know, if you can go down into the effects panel here, you know, on the bottom right and create a vignette, but it's very, you can't move where the vignette is and you only have a couple of different adjustments. So I'm just going to create a mask here, make sure my overlays are visible. Oh, actually, first I'm going to change it back to my color overlay. I'm going to create a new mask and I'm just going to choose the radial gradient. So then I'll just draw a gradient. Now, I'm not going to worry about the size or the shape or the position right away because I can move it around. I can resize it. That's the feather that I'm resizing there. I can make the actual size, you know, more oval or more round. And then you can also rotate. So I'm just going to kind of angle it there a little bit and maybe size it down a touch. Okay, so as you can see, the mask created, I'm going to go back to my black and white view. The white area of the mask, excuse me, the white area of the mask is where the edits are actually going to be applied. Pardon me. But what I want is I want the outside area to be what's affected. So over here in the top there's a little invert button right up there. So if I click that, it inverts my mask. So now as I make edits, so I might want to decrease the shadows, to darken the edges, maybe decrease the highlights to make some of those little hot spots a little bit brighter, and maybe decrease the blacks. But another thing I can do is go into my texture and decrease that. And if you look in the corners as I'm doing this, it's kind of like making it a little bit out of focus. It's not really defocusing it. It's just kind of removing some of that clarity. And I'll do that with the clarity slider as well. So let's see a before and after here of all those masks. And I'll just do a full before and after. And this is just showing the masking. But, you know, I was really able to really bring out the little lizard's face and kind of make that the spotlight and the highlight. So
it's amazing when you do the before and after. I was shocked at how much that spot in the upper right corner took my eye away until you darkened it.
Yeah, it really did. And that's, you know, like traditionally when we're looking at photos, the brighter and more contrasty areas, those are what is going to draw our eye. And of course, you know, you're going to look at this and know, well, the lizard is the main part, but you can still have distracting elements, you know, and this might be something, might think about cropping it out, but it doesn't bother me too much. But when I'm able to actually remove kind of that highlight area, like you said, it really makes a big difference. So,
yeah.
Right. Excellent. Now, before we jump into Kristina, I just wanted to answer a question that everyone seems to be asking. So yes, this is being recorded and I will post it in the Facebook groups and all the other social networks. So the link will be there. And Kristina, somehow your share got disconnected. So we need to have you connect your
share screen, screen one, hide. And there we go. All right.
There we go. Yep. Excellent.
Okay. So
and did you want to introduce yourself first as well?
Sure. So my name is Kristina Sherk. I am a photographer and retoucher and I guess Photoshop educator based out of Washington, D.C. or the surrounding area, and love translating Photoshop and Lightroom for people. So happy to be here and super happy to be talking about and geeking out on all of these really exciting new features.
Cool.
Yeah.
So your screen is up.
Okay, so we've got an image here. I'm just going to say thank you to Sue Bryce. She is the photographer behind this beautiful shot, and I love using this shot as a demo piece. I'm going to just pick up where Nicole left off. Again, we are going to start by going into our develop module. So we'll click on our develop module there, and then we're going to activate our, Command C, our masking. Okay. And so just as Nicole mentioned, we have some new things like select object, and she went over radial gradient as well. I'm really happy that she went over intersect too. There are a couple new ones. So we used to have select subject and select sky, but we didn't have select background. So that's a new one that's just been added recently in the new Lightroom 12 release. So if we click once on that, you'll see the background immediately be selected for you. which is really great because you can make any tweaks that you want to the background and just really make your subject pop out. You can even come over here into the bottom of this area and add a color overlay to the actual background that you're working on and change the background to any color that you might want. Like maybe, you know, maybe it's holiday time and we want to change the background to a little bit more of a greenish tinge or teal, or whatever your logo colors are on your website, things like that. You know, the possibilities are really endless for this. And then again, you can use the same intersect feature to create a spotlight, which could add the illusion of a spot behind the subject. And that's something I'm going to spend more time on something else right now, but you could definitely do that given the commands that we have, right? The command to select subject or subtract subject from a mask, right? So you could start with a radial gradient, and then you could subtract the subject mask from the effect and end up with a radial gradient just on the background. I know that's hypothetical. What I want to spend most of my time on today is the new masking for features of a person. So we'll click on our create new mask button, and then down here we're going to have select people, which is new. Now I'm going to delete the mask that I have now because I think it's important to show what it looks like initially. And if we look down here, you can see under the people tab, we have one person show up. So if we click on that person that Lightroom Classic has detected, and we click through to that person, you'll see some very exciting new things pop up. And so the first checkbox that you have is the option to select entire person. You also have the option to select facial skin, select body skin, select eyebrows, select eye sclera, which are the eye whites, by the way. Select
Can I just
iris.
interrupt and say that this is pretty amazing? I mean, the way it
is
goes from particular areas to the next like that.
It is astonishing. And all I'm doing is hovering over these words basically. And what Lightroom is doing is basically telling me what the mask is going to look like. And they find this all by referencing the face once with AI, which is crazy. All right, so we're not going to select the entire person because this is basically the same as select subject. We don't want to do that. We want to get advanced here today. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select face skin, body skin, eyebrows, eye sclera, iris and pupil, lips. I'm not going to do teeth because they're almost not even showing up, and we'll do hair. And then if we look down here at the bottom, we have the option to create 7 separate masks. We have 7 different things checked. And if we didn't check this box right here, it's going to create a mask with all of these things in the same mask. But we don't want to do that. We would like to create 7 different masks independent of one another. And then we'll come over and choose the create mask. And look at this, my friends. All right, I'm going to click this out, drag it, and actually dock it along the side. Is that okay? So we've got a mask for facial skin, body skin, body skin, eyebrows, eye sclera or eye whites, irises, lips, and hair. So if we wanted, we could come in and rename all of these masks, because I can tell you what, mask 76543 doesn't do anything for me. If you double click on the word on the mask name, you can come in here and rename it. So I'll name this hair. I'll come down to the next one, and this is lips.
But why doesn't Lightroom? I wish that Lightroom just was like, hey, let's just name all the masks with whatever.
I mean, wouldn't that make perfect sense? Because it's right here.
And I want to, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you're probably going to get into this, but the benefit of naming them if you're going to make presets is huge as well, which I'm sure you'll probably get into. So
yes, definitely. Yeah, that is super important. All right. So anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time renaming everything because you saw me rename 3 of them already. But what we can do here with our hair mask, the reason, you know, like Nicole pointed out, the reason why you see that mask overlay of red is because there have not been any changes applied to the mask yet. So if there wasn't any mask overlay and you just had this, you wouldn't know what the mask looked like, right? You wouldn't know where it started or where it ended. So that's why the mask overlay is beneficial for before we make any changes. Then we could come in, we could add contrast to the hair, maybe a little bit touch of saturation to the hair, and maybe a little bit of sharpness and texture as well to the hair, to that area. I think I went a bit too far here. Pull those back. If at any point you feel like you did go too far with something, you have this really handy dandy amount slider, which is going to take all of your sliders and either amplify or decrease their effect. So you don't have to go back to each individual slider and take it like closer to 0. All right, so now we've got our lips mask. We can go ahead, add some saturation to the lips and maybe sharpen the lips just a bit. I don't like that this keeps popping back and forth, so I'm just going to put it here for a sec. We're going to go back to iris. So now that we have our iris mask selected, let me come into 100% here. I'm just going to let Lightroom snap this in. So we've got our iris mask. Let's go ahead and start really accentuating these blue eyes. Maybe just a tad of bluer temperature for those eyes, and slightly increasing the exposure and increasing the texture and a tad of the clarity and then some sharpness down here. With some of my presets that I've created, for example, let me just show you the AI eyes presets. I have, I don't know, over 20 in this group. I'm going to turn, for my iris, I'm going to turn that off. But if I come in here and go over all of these different ones, maybe I need to have that unselected. Hold on. You can see how the eye color is changing just a little bit. And it's giving me some weird effects. That's not usually what it looks like.
I would say the interesting thing is people are always saying they're never going to have layers in Lightroom, but this is pretty much layers, the way that you can go to those individual.
Yeah, this is definitely like layers.
And we have 2 questions. You want to take a couple questions?
Yeah.
Okay. First one is Facebook user. Am I correct that Lightroom Classic version 12 is available for Mac with M1 CPU?
It is. And you also don't need to run it in Rosetta anymore. So that's a benefit.
And then the other question is, I have some really old photos in JPEG only. Am I able to use these features on JPEG or only on RAW images?
No, you're definitely able to use them on any images that you see fit. Any images.
Excellent. Yep.
Don't use it on a Word document. All right. So we've got our for our eye sclera here. One of the little tips that I love teaching is that as our eye whites, as we age, our eye whites actually go from blue, very blue, to very yellow as we age. And so you know, if you're looking for a subliminal way to give the appearance of youth in your images, instead of doing the radioactive eye white, which never looks good, instead you can actually just decrease the temperature to make it slightly more blue, and then just add literally just a touch of exposure to those eye whites, and you're going to get a really nice appearance from that. Okay, so you can see how it's nice and soft. The other thing that's helpful with eye whites is decreasing the texture and decreasing the clarity a little bit. But when you do that, these two sliders tend to darken things. So keep that in mind, that that is why we would add slightly more exposure to those eye whites. But if I take the eye whites and turn them on and off, you can see they were softened, they were brightened, and they're a little touch more blue. All right.
And can you take a couple more questions?
Yeah.
So my big question, still avoiding working with Lightroom, only using Photoshop. Is this feature faster than the usual steps in Photoshop?
Well, yeah, if you turn it into
Seems
a
like it is.
preset.
Right.
You know, Andrew, can you remember that for a second? I'm going to finish this. And then when I talk about creating a preset, it's literally one click. So yes,
okay. And that goes well. That goes well with the second question, which is, I thought you could not use presets with masks, but for the photo as a whole, what's the trick? So.
You can now use presets with masks because of because of all these new presets. They have a specific name. They're called adaptive presets.
Right.
Anytime you see that word adaptive, it means it's going to use the AI masking selection tools that Lightroom now has in order to apply different changes to the eye, different changes to the skin, different changes to the body skin, different changes to the lips, to the eyebrows. It's huge. This is why my brain feels like it's constantly exploding with this stuff, because it's like saying that it's revolutionary is just like not even enough.
And there's
so
just
I've got
one, I was gonna say there's just one last question too, is how did you deselect the other eye?
Deselect the other eye. Meaning
did you do that?
maybe,
I'm not sure if you did do that, like when you're working
no,
on the eyes.
the iris, no, they're both there, but you can turn off the visibility of a certain mask by clicking the eyeball. If you want to turn the visibility off of all of the adjustments that you made of all of your selective masks, you can do that by hitting the light switch by the word masks. But if you want to just do the one of the eyes, the irises, then you do the eyeball. Hopefully that is the answer to the question.
Great.
You also have like each one of these masks has like a tab that kind of hints to you as to what the vicinity is of the thing that you're adding and stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna,
because that's in the toolbar, right, to actually toggle the visibility of those.
Yeah. So it's right here on the show overlay, but then also if you hover over them, they'll pop up.
Press T on your keyboard to show the toolbar there at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
You see at the bottom there on the very bottom left, it has auto to show those live points. So if they bother you and you don't want to see them, you can say never, or you can say always, or auto is kind of when you're scrolling over it. So just so if you guys are looking, if you have a ton of things and you're working on a portrait like Christy is, then you're going to see all those little things. So if you don't want to see them or you want them to kind of go away on their own, then that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think you can also hit H.
Does H like? Oh, there you go. There's a good tip.
Yeah.
Can you take a couple more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Clara asks, Lightroom does a great job on the mask. How can you add or subtract from the mask if need be?
Oh, it's a great question. So with our mask one here, which is our skin mask, right? You can see that it's not necessarily got the sharpest edge along here. So you have these two handy dandy buttons. When you activate a mask here in the panel, you have two handy dandy buttons for add or subtract. So we could subtract from that mask using our brush tool.
Great.
Okay. And then let's show the overlay right now while we're using this. And I'll make sure my flow is just a little bit up. And I can come in and fine tune the edge of that mask. And I can either do it with a soft edged brush, or I can do it with a harder edged brush by bringing my feather down.
Excellent.
So that's how you would subtract. And then adding is the same. You just use the add button instead. Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to quickly go through, so we've made some changes, right? Let's just hypothetically, we really want to try and keep this to an hour. So and Nicole and I want to get through one more tip each. So I'm going to just body, skin.
A lot of viewers here, though. A lot of viewers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know, lots of questions too.
Yeah, it's great.
Eyebrows. So I'll just darken the eyebrows slightly so that we do have like a slight adjustment to them. And then this is facial skin. I'm just double clicking the mask name, right? And then eye whites here.
So it is actually if you click on if you click one of those masks and it
Right.
shows below it, then it says what it is, but this is like a Lightroom feature request, right?
Yeah.
I want them all to be named exactly what they are, because there's that really beautiful list that you have to choose from. And now here's a question for you, Christy. If you had multiple people, and I know that we know it can also separate out those people, does it label them by the person's name if it has the name?
It doesn't.
Person.
I don't think it has the name. You're talking about people view, and
yeah.
And I don't know if it's done that yet.
Maybe that's to come.
It does say person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, and I'll get to that in my next tip after you do your next tip. The last thing that I want to do before moving back and throwing it back to Nicole is to create a preset, right? We've done a lot of different local adjustments, and we want to be able to use these local adjustments in the future on different images. So we can come over to our presets panel here. We can choose to create a preset, and then we'll call this beauty. Let's call this basic beauty. And because this is a person with blue eyes and we accentuated the blue eyes, I'm going to put blue eyes under there. And then I'm going to make sure that I have nothing checked, right? Instead of check all, we're probably going to have a bunch of check boxes. We want to make sure check none. We activate check none. And then we're going to come over to the masking and the masking section. And here is the benefit of having all of these different masks named. Otherwise, it would say mask 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that doesn't do anybody any favors. So now that we've done that, we have basic beauty, blue eyes, and I'm going to save that in my Shark Pixel one-click beauty sampler. And I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now, if I come there, you can see basic beauty, blue eyes is here. So let me go to, oh gosh, I don't like doing this like on the fly. Now I have to find somebody with blue eyes. I don't have a lot of blue eyes.
We'll show what happens if you don't have someone with blue eyes, and then how you can, maybe modify it if you need to.
Yeah, let me get rid of these masks. Hold on. Delete purple hair mask. Okay, so she's got blue eyes. So if we came over to our preset that we created, basic beauty, blue eyes, it's going to take a minute because it's going to reference all the different features in that person. But then basically all of your adjustments have been made for you. Okay. This is why I'm losing my, what. Okay. And I have created over 120 presets already for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to just delete all masks. And I got there through the 3-dot menu in the masks panel. So I'm going to just delete all masks. And I'm just going to show you like the eye presets that I have. So I do them by base color. So I have some adjustments for dark eyes and I have some adjustments for light eyes. So it's detecting, sorry. All right, so if I go through here, you can see these are for the dark eyes, but when we get to the light eye adjustments, they're much less saturated. And then I have some eye white adjustments and some eye sharpening adjustments as well. So all of them are one click. All of them are one click. So yeah, so we can go back to our regular screen now. I'm gonna throw it back to Nicole unless I have any other questions. What do you think?
You're muted, Andrew.
I think I was blowing my nose and I didn't want to interrupt. So. So let's go back to, yeah. So I was gonna say there's a bunch of questions unless Nicole wants to answer the questions.
Well, I can answer, yeah.
Okay. Or, you can jump back and forth.
Yeah.
So let's see. Jack asks, do you adjust in basic before masking or masking before basic? Or
I always do my basic edits before I do any masking, because you never know what's going to change. If you do all the masking first and then you jump to your basic edits, your mask is going to have to be adapted to that. So like what you didn't see, what I kind of showed a little bit, is I had already done some really basic edits to that. And then I did my masking. That's not to say that you can't go back and do more basic edits if you want to, maybe add more contrast or whatever, because you can always use that amount slider in your masks to kind of fine tune if you want it to be more or less intense. So yeah, and that's just kind of how it goes with anything I edit. Before I do any specialized edits to my photos, whether it's in Lightroom or Photoshop, I'm always going to do my real basic, like simple raw edits, and then I jump to masking and stylization.
Great. And then Facebook user didn't give permissions. Do you think this feature will be implemented in Camera Raw filter in Photoshop due to it's basically a raw converter?
It's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's already there.
I was going to think so.
Yeah, it's already there.
So
I think Christy actually showed that at Adobe Max on how to do it in Camera Raw. So
yeah. So it's there, and all the presets work in Adobe Camera Raw as well.
Okay, and then
I just updated Lightroom Mobile, and you can't manually select the adaptive preset masks in Lightroom Mobile on your phone yet. You can on your computer. This is wildly confusing.
I know.
Okay, first of all, Lightroom Mobile on your desktop has all of these features. Lightroom Mobile on your phone, the way you have to access the adaptive presets and masks is through the adaptive presets that are by default populated in your phone presets section.
Okay, and then Miroslava asks, what is the difference between invert mask and duplicate and invert mask?
Well, invert mask is going to invert the mask you have selected. But if you wanted to, duplicate and invert just creates a new version of that mask, and then it inverts it. So you'll have two masks. If you only have one mask at a time, then you'll have two masks, but they're going to be basically opposite of each other.
Great.
That's the way you used to select background.
Yeah.
Was you would select subject first, and then you would duplicate and invert to select everything other than that subject.
Yeah, I'm glad that they've added that background thing, because it makes it faster, and sometimes it does a better or a different job. With the AI, you never really know what you're going to get. So some of it is like experimenting and trying. I feel like it does a better job with finding, facial features are always better with AI. It did a pretty good job with what I was working on, and for the most part. But sometimes I just, I'm curious. I'm like, what is it going to think my subject is here? So I just try it out and see what happens.
It's much easier with people, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And here's what I consider a great question. Reminds me of some of the things I've done in Photoshop. Is there a way to copy the adjustments to other masks? So I've copied like layer masks myself in Photoshop. So I guess they're asking similar. Can you do that in Lightroom?
Yeah, you can sync. Yeah, you should be able to sync, just like, you get that same dialog box that you get when you create a preset, but you should be able to sync, from one to another, just like you would any other edit.
I don't know that he's asking between images. He may be asking on the same image.
Oh, that's actually
I think you could duplicate the mask. You could duplicate the mask and then paint it completely black, and then select the new area in which you wanted to apply that to, or you could add to the mask you already have. The thing is, like, you don't have to have if you have two flowers in an image and you're working on one, making it more saturated and sharpened, you can add to that mask with another select objects, and they're both going to have the same thing applied. Unless you want different severities, then you would want two different masks.
Yeah, but if you have two masks already created, then I don't know if you can copy over those settings to the new mask. You'd want to start with one
and then duplicate
the mask, and then clear the mask, and then start over. So I know that's kind of probably harder to explain than it is to show, but
yeah.
All right, I have a couple of tips actually. If we have a few minutes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then,
I'll make it quick. I won't do a full edit.
Real quick question, which I know the answer. Why can I not see these options in Lightroom Classic?
Actually, I might be answering your question. Assuming you have a fully updated, you're in the newest version of Lightroom, I'm actually going to answer that question.
Okay.
Right?
Add to stream.
Okay. So here, so okay, so they're probably asking if I go into my mask, some of these options aren't going to be here, and it's probably not going to look like this. What you want to do is go into your calibration right down here at the bottom. You want to make sure you have the most current version, because let me go all the way. Well, I don't know what's going to happen if I go all the way back to 1, but I'll go to version 3 and let's see what happens. Now, if I click that mask at the top there, it's not working the way I thought it would. Right? This is always how it works, right? Let me go back down. It's supposed to not.
Only because you're live, right?
Yeah, that's, oh, here we go. Now it worked. I went back to version 1 and now it's doing. So they're all grayed out. Objects is grayed out, and it, there's no people in this, so it wouldn't show anything. But that is what I would suggest checking, is to see if you're, maybe you have the wrong version there, or, the wrong process version. So make sure it's up to date. And also, you want to make sure that you have the, 12.0 whatever release of your Lightroom version.
If you haven't updated.
Yeah,
that's
go
what
into
I
your
was going to
Creative
say.
Cloud app. If you're using an older version, then you're not paying for the Creative Cloud, then you're not going to have these newer features. So I think this is one of the probably most beneficial add-on to Lightroom. I mean, Lightroom is just, I've been using Lightroom since it was in beta, like 15 years ago or 17 years ago, or however long it's been around. And it's just been fun to see it progress, and this is getting better and better. Okay, so I'm just going to show a really quick fun tip here. First, I need to get back to where I was. Okay, so as you can see with this, I actually have added some edits to it. If I were to reset, you can see that I think I just did a really quick auto adjustment to this just to kind of make it so it didn't look so blah. But what I want to show here is just a fun little technique of adding some atmosphere to your image. So I'm going to start out by clicking the mask icon, and I'm going to add a radial gradient. And I'm just going to draw a gradient in the top right there. Let me go ahead and change my overlay view so it's a little easier to see. So what I want to do here is add fog. So I'm using this, and as I'm changing this little center thing, you can see that this little feather slider is moving left and right. Let me actually I'm going to turn my things to auto there. Okay, so now if I change that feather slider, it's moving, but you can also just do it in the screen there. So adding, this is a good example to add fog in, because this is Pacific Northwest. This is out here in Oregon. It's very mossy and it's usually overcast. So it's a good kind of candidate for adding fog. But I basically just create a gradient. For this example, I used a radial gradient. And then I'm going to start out by going to dehaze. I'm just going to drag the haze to the left. Maybe, remove some of the shadows by increasing that shadow slider. Play around. A lot of times I don't really know exactly what each slider is going to do. So, I'll move things left and right and just kind of see what happens with it. Maybe see if decreasing the contrast helps. And then for this example, because there is, I'm going to actually hide this over here, because there's a lot of light that could be peeking through. Well, here, maybe I could reduce the highlights to kind of subdue some of that. But I actually want to add a touch of warmth, because I like to think that the sun might be shining through that. So let me go ahead and I'll use H. I'll use your keyboard shortcut there. So if I just kind of toggle this off and on. Oh, that's showing a previous edit when I was practicing. So that's not going to work. Let's toggle this one off and on. So that's just my fun little trick of adding a little bit of atmosphere to an image. Like I said, it's going to work best if you have a photo that already is, has the conditions for this type of effect. But yeah. So
what happens if you subtract object and paint over the tree?
Let's try it. So
you'd have to be very precise.
Why is it? There we go. Subtract object. Brush. I'm going to reduce my brush size. And you're talking about this tree right here?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
This is not very precise, but we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And it's thinking. My computer's working overtime too. I'm kind of still working on my setup here, and you can do it, Lightroom. You can do it. Okay. Oh, that looks weird. That looks really weird.
Super weird.
But what you could do though is let me make sure that mask is selected. And at the very top, this is where you can kind of play around. But see how it's doing some weird things there? Is my mask? No, I didn't have that mask there. anyways, you can decrease or increase the intensity of it, but you know, sometimes it's going to do some strange things if you go too far with it. So
yeah,
but that's great for like the presets that you make, Christy. That amount slider is fantastic for both adaptive presets and also for just normal presets. Because when you add a preset, and let me just do that just really quickly as a non-masking thing. Like I have some color grading presets. You know, I could add a color grading there,
Ooh,
and then right at the top
pretty.
up here, you know, this is pretty good. It's pretty intense. So maybe you're like, well, let me scale it back a touch, or let me make it like, you know, like apocalyptic there. So yeah, so that amount slider, I'm glad that they've added things like amount slider both on masking and also with presets, because it really lets you really fine tune and just kind of keep it your own style. And you don't have to, you know, because some people like presets, some people don't, you know, especially if they're other people's presets, but things like this allow you to really work with them and change them to work just for your photos and your style.
Well, I got a very nice comment here from John. So this is tremendous education. Thank you. Could this become a regular event? Might have to do the Nicole and Kristina show in the Photoshop and Lightroom group.
I love it.
Every month.
Yeah. I got a quick one. Are there any questions before we move on?
Yeah, just a couple little ones. Do you recommend using a mouse or a pen pad? I guess tablet. There we go. There's your answer. And then is there a way to move the mask together in Lightroom? I'm not sure.
Merge them.
Maybe merge, yeah. They say move, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's what they mean.
There's like no grouping. Merge them together. No, at this point, no. But who knows what's coming down the pipe?
That's right.
You know, they're updating it so fast. It's crazy. Maybe.
So you have another one, Kristina?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so so I've done the demo on like a face with one image, but this time we're going to talk about a face with multiple. I'm sorry, we're going to talk about an image with multiple faces, right? So this is the image that you're working hypothetically, right? This is the image we're working on with our team. We want to put it on our website, but you get an ask from a creative director saying, I need the teeth whitened on everybody but the girl in the front in the jean jacket. Okay, not a problem. We're going to go into the develop module, activate our masking, and then this might take a minute because again, I'm on an ancient computer as well. So it's detecting the people. So you can see it here. And so what Lightroom has been able to do is make masks for all 6 of the people in this photograph. So we are going to go to person 1 and we're going to add a mask for his teeth. Then we're going to add people and we're going to go through. And once we add people, we're going to click on all the people other than the girl in the front with the jean jacket. So she's the only one that does not have a check mark, right? So what we're doing is we're creating a mask that is going to have the teeth selected on 5 of the 6 people. We can hit continue. And then in this screen, I don't know why it's detecting person features again, but that's fine. Maybe they're doing maybe they do one pass that's like basic and then they do one pass that's like better. So you have the option here again, create 5 separate masks. No, I don't want to make these slider adjustments 5 different times on 5 different sets of teeth. I want to just do it once. So I'm actually going to uncheck the create 5 separate masks. And I'm going to go ahead and create a mask. And if I come up here, that now we can see that I'm going to change the visualization on this mask to black, white on black. So there's the mask that's been created for the 5 different teeth.
I was just going to say real quick, when their teeth are red like that, they look like vampires.
Yeah, they do. They do. We could leave it like this because it's, you know, happy Halloween flyer going.
That's right.
No. So instead of brightening the teeth and making them again look radioactive, nobody wants to do that. That's bad editing. Telltale sign of beginner editing. What we can do again is shift the color just a little bit closer to blue. And the other thing that I want to do is add a color overlay that's going to neutralize the yellow tonality of the teeth. So I can do that by coming back to my color overlay box and choosing to add like a periwinkle purple to the teeth. And that has done a pretty good job at neutralizing the yellow and getting and whitening, in quotes, whitening the teeth. If you want to go a touch down on decreased saturation, that'll help too. And if you feel like there's one that's a little bit like too white, if you will, or going a little bit radioactive, like these two teeth or this guy's teeth back here are just slightly too bright, you could choose the subtract, and you could choose the brush tool to subtract from our mask. And then I do want to make sure that my flow is not at 100%, but maybe more like 30%. I'll use my bracket keys to make my brush smaller. And I'll just brush over them slightly to decrease a little bit of that whitening just from those two areas. But basically in, you know, I don't know, how long did that take? That's the quick tip for you. You know, in
Pretty cool.
60 seconds, 90 seconds, we were able to whiten all of those teeth. No masking required. All the masking is done automatically. Oh, well, I did do a little bit of brushing. But I mean, 99% of it was done for you just with a couple clicks of the mouse. So I do have the Shark Pixel Beauty presets, which is a freebie sampler that I'm giving away. It has the full face for dark eyes, the full face for light eyes, and
is this
teeth
it?
whiten only.
One click sample?
Yeah, so those are the samplers that I have put together, and you can find that up here at this link. And I think you have that link too, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, that's my last tip.
Excellent. So yeah, let's see. Comments here. Real quick, but does Lightroom detect a group of animals? Example, 2 birds. I think subject is a subject.
Jumped over to my screen real quickly because I was just going to show. You cannot do that, but I was just going to show because I actually have a photo of some birds. So the portrait edits are the only way that you can actually do the individual ones. But if I were to choose subject here, it's probably going to find all of the birds. So instead of actually working with that, I'm going to delete that.
That's so stinking cool.
Yeah, you would want to choose the objects and then, you know, choose which, you know, like maybe I just wanted these guys on the left to be selected. So then I just drew a quick box over it, and it's going to have to, for some reason, detect the objects again. And then it should eventually just pop up. So you can do them separately if you wanted to, but it's not like a portrait. There, found it. It's not like portrait editing where it's actually going to say, oh, do you want this and this and this? But I think the more I teach masking, you probably see this too, Kristina, like I see all of the things that just in my head, oh, they're probably going to add this. Oh, they're probably going to add this. You know, like all the things that are just coming down the road. I don't have any insight on it, but I'm just, by using it, I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool to say, let me click an object thing and have it show me all the objects and then choose the objects that I want. Like crossing fingers, right, that they'll add something like that down the road, because that'd be a cool feature. But it's pretty good the way it is. I mean, they've made a lot of progress with this masking, and it's not making Photoshop obsolete, but when you're editing photographs and you don't need to do composite work or layers, you know, intense layer work, it's just so much easier to work in Lightroom and just push them out like this. So non-destructively, which is great.
For most photographers, yeah, this is what they need. Being able to just easily do selective edits. And that's what Lightroom was missing.
Excellent. Yeah, this has been excellent. So just wanted to remind people this, because I keep asking this question. Will a replay be available for this so I can take better notes? Yes. So in the Facebook groups, always look for the top pinned post. So the top pin post is where the recording will be posted after this
Say
event.
that 5 times fast.
It's what? Yeah. Top
Say
pin
that 5
post.
times fast.
Top pin post. That's also where we put the information about upcoming live events, contests, special events, news, etc. So top pin post, top pin post. And yes, I will be sharing the YouTube link everywhere. So, and let's see. Impressive. I'll grab the bird's reflection as well. Yeah, that was quite cool. And John says, say it with us, top pin post. And so this has been excellent. So before a new flush of questions come in, I would like to give respect to let you know where to follow everyone. So Nicole can be found at nicolez.com. Also,
Nicole S.
and what would you say is that you're free?
So I have a pretty good collection of a bunch of freebies on my site. I have a few training programs. I have a Lightroom training. It's a little older, but it has a lot of the, Lightroom, for the most part, the basic edits haven't changed too much. But I have a bunch of textures and presets, and if you go there, you'll see everything, and everything's free. It just a lot of times it requires a sign up, or go through my online store to get your freebie, and just have at it. Get anything you like. Have fun with it.
And find more of her videos at her YouTube, Nicole Z.
I recently did a YouTube live on masking. So if you want to see some more of the masking features with some of my photos, then that's another thing you can watch as well. Cool.
And then Kristina, you were saying that the one-click sample is more.
Yeah, that's the free full face one-click presets that I'm giving away for you guys today to just help speed up your workflow. There's 3 in there. One is just whitening teeth. One is basic beauty for darker eyes, and one is basic beauty for lighter eyes. The thing is, you make different adjustments depending on the underlying eye color. So I wanted to give 2 different ones to just have something easier. And those can be found there. Yeah.
And you can also find Kristina on Facebook at Shark Pixel, on Instagram at Shark_Pixel, and YouTube Shark Pixel.
I'm everywhere.
And then also on
Shark Pixel, I'm Nicole Z. Just Google us and you'll find where you want to go.
And then also, so people know, for Kristina, your YouTube also has retouching as well, right?
It does. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, some quick tips, retouching videos and stuff.
Right. And as I said, I will be sharing the recording, but don't be shy. Feel free to subscribe for more digital art, Photoshop, and photography focused live streams and tutorials on my YouTube at Digital Art Drew. It's Digital Art Drew.
I think someone was asking this format. Someone who is probably watching from YouTube is curious about your Facebook group, because I know not everyone's here on Facebook. So
yes, do join the Photoshop and Lightroom group. We just passed 312,000 members. So Facebook.com/groups Photoshop Lightroom group.
Yeah, thanks everyone this is really fun. I like doing this kind of stuff. I love doing stuff. I get so jazzed and energized whenever, even though I'm still sitting in my little sound booth here, but it's just fun to interact with everyone and see all the questions and comments come through.
And I love tag teaming with somebody.
Yeah. Let's do this again. This is fun.
And let me give a little shout out to StreamYard. So yeah, StreamYard is the one that makes it all possible, multi-streaming to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube all at once. So yeah, thank you, StreamYard. And let's see, we got a lot of compliments coming in. So got to scroll back.
Give us a hug.
Yeah, I know, virtual hug. That's cute.
So much. Awesome. Okay, so let's see.
A Lightroom pillow. Oh, those are cool. I have a Lightroom and a Photoshop pillow too.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for making it possible. John says most excellent.
Yeah, is that the only place?
I don't know. Did you get yours from Max, Andrew?
I got my Lightroom pillow ages ago. They sent it to me. So
I bought mine from Max.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
So go to Adobe Max next year. You can meet this person.
Yeah.
They haven't announced where it is.
Hey, Kelly.
Okay, let's see. So yeah, John says most excellent. Facebook, you're awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Kirsty, thank you guys. Always interesting. Mika says freebies. Love freebies.
Yeah, lots of them.
Freebies.
Let's see. Thank you. Very insightful. Someone wrote Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving next week.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thanks so much. First video and video. Thanks from Cape Cod.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. And once again, yes, the recording will be posted in the Facebook groups at the top pin post, and then also on Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course YouTube. So feel free to subscribe to Digital Art Drew on YouTube for more. And yes, this went so well that for sure going to have Nicole and Kristina work out a show for us, like at least once a month, I think. So
maybe we can do something with Photoshop next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of knowledge coming out. Yeah, still coming. All the thank yous are still coming. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Great. I will thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thanks. Yes, Friday.
Friday.
Right. Thanks, everyone.